It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Today, we welcome a two-sport veteran from the football and baseball ranks. Originally drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 7th round of the 1993 Major League Baseball draft, he played for the Gulf Coast League Pirates of the Gulf Coast League and the Erie Seawolves of the New York Penn League. After a 2-year stint in junior college, he transferred to the University of Oregon. As a member of the Ducks, his best season came in his senior year, throwing 30 touchdowns in only 11 starts. His efforts earned him Pac-10 Co-Offensive Player of the Year honors. He then spent 4 seasons in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals, throwing for over 2,000 yards and 5 TDs.
Play action. Akili Smith on the bootleg into the end zone. Touchdown, Bengals.
Basnight made that point. Great fake and carried out by Basnight makes it easy for Akili Smith.
And Akili joins this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN right now with your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream edition of Listen In with KNN, presented by Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. I'm your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. Thanks, as always, for joining me for another Saturday. I hope everyone's Saturday is going well. I know we're watching college football, so I appreciate you all for tuning in. And thanks so much for bearing with us. We had a few technical difficulties, but look, I'm bringing on a former football player. If anything, he knows how to get through adversity, and that's what we did this afternoon to get to the show. So without further ado, I want to get into it. Joining me on today's show is none other than Akili Smith, a former NFL player, former CFL player, and Oregon Ducks fans. I know you guys are very happy seeing that he's one of your former quarterbacks, and also Cincinnati Bengals fans. I know you'll also be happy with my special guest today. So without further ado, I want to welcome in Mr. Akili Smith. Akili, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm great. First off, I really appreciate you joining me. I understand that you have a busy day today, right? Your son is playing in the 7-7 league, right? Playing football, following in dad's footsteps.
Yeah. Well, I hope he follows my footsteps and have a little better career than I did once I got to the NFL. But the game is starting at about 11:30, 11:45. So they're out there doing stride and stretch now. But I had to get this interview in before I started the games.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for joining. I like to ask all my guests to kick things off because obviously this year, Akili, has been different than any other with COVID-19. So is everyone in your family okay? Is everyone doing good? You're feeling great?
Yeah, nobody in our family has caught COVID. We've been very fortunate, very blessed. We've been following all the guidelines, obviously wearing a mask. And, we're sympathetic to those who did catch COVID and wasn't able to make it. And just, hopefully this terrible virus goes away soon so that we can get back to everyday normal living.
I know. It's crazy to think that like normal now is so far removed now, right? We're doing the face mask, the social distancing. It's just crazy how things are. And since all your Oregon Ducks fans are already tuning into the show, we might as well start with college football. Now, college football this year has been quite different, Akili. We're seeing COVID cases unfortunately pop up left and right. I know my University of Maryland Terrapins could not take on Ohio State University, unfortunately, because of COVID-19. We saw what happened with Arizona State University, unfortunately, with almost an entire side of the football. They're saying almost 40 players might have COVID. You know, you look at the matchup between LSU and Alabama being postponed. We saw what happened with the Florida Gators, basically having a 2-week stoppage, Georgia Tech's game against Pitt. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. So just seeing all that's happening, do you think it's still safe to just kind of continue on with college football, or Akili, or would you kind of like us to get a better grasp on COVID-19 and then send the young adults or the young kids back on the football field?
Yeah, you know, it's a tough call because anytime you're dealing with the NCAA and their bottom line, they're going to try to do whatever they can to make sure that we play these games. So it makes it tough. And then on the flip side, you got guys who are trying to finish up their degree with admirations of going to the NFL. So it's kind of like, how do you balance out the two? You know, guys are testing positive. We got to kick the games back. Do we have a true national champion this year? Do we just play for league titles? So I'm curious to see how this whole college thing ends up.
Yeah, and I'm happy you touched on that because do you think we can still have a true champion this year, Akili, with all of the adversity that COVID-19 has brought us thus far? And we're still early in the season.
Yeah, as bad as I want my Oregon Ducks to win it, to say that we only played 7 league games, and then the SEC is already playing like 8 or 9 games or something like that. I got to look at the standings. There's no way we can say that this year is a true national champ. So for me, if you win your league, you go play a bowl game, and then we just move on and get ready for the following season.
Yeah, I know. We're hoping the following season, of course, we're hoping COVID will hopefully be under control by then. Because, you know, now we're looking forward to college basketball, but who even knows, right, where that will go. See what's happening with college football. And it's not even just in football, right? We're seeing this in the NFL as well. We saw what happened with Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens COVID cases. And so I don't know, like, it's just, if you had a master plan, and I know it's a hard answer, Akili, but it's hard to go on. But then I also feel like sports has kind of been this escape for many, right? To just kind of get away from just kind of the craziness that's going on. So for you, how has it felt watching college football, watching NFL play in the midst of all that's kind of gone on this year? We know what happened with the election, right? We know what's happened over the course of the summer. So what have sports kind of served for you this kind of during this rough time period of 2020?
Well, for me, when I heard the NBA was coming back on, it was like a breath of fresh air. I mean, we finally get a chance to see, you know, Kawhi and LeBron and Anthony Davis and those guys back on the hoop court. Yeah. They're saying they're living in a bubble, so we visualize this big plastic thing in the air like it's a bubble. Well, we know it's not a bubble, but it was a breath of fresh air to see the guys out there entertaining us like they do and just letting us get away from all of the COVID stuff that's been going on. But again, you know, I'm thinking along the lines of we need some type of mister at the front door, so when everybody comes in, they get sprayed. We got to do social distancing. We got to wear masks. I mean, there's so many variables involved with this thing that I hope they don't cancel it. I hope that guys don't get sick and end up passing away. So again, we'll see how this thing finishes up.
That's all we can do. And I'm just curious, Akili, if you could give a piece of advice to college players right now, to just kind of who are navigating this time period, what would your advice be? I know you obviously didn't have to go up against anything like COVID-19, but I'm sure a lot of young players come to you for advice, for guidance. What words of wisdom would you share with them?
Well, I would continue with the social distancing. Make sure you're, washing your hands and stuff like that. Don't sit too close to each other at the chow hall. I know a lot of guys right now still watching grown men on the sticks playing PS4, PS5, or PS26, whatever they got these days. And they're probably sitting right next to each other, screaming at the TV, and there's some spray coming out of their mouth. So you gotta be able to stay away from guys. Make sure you're getting your education paid for, get your degree, and then one day you'll be a pro. It might not be in basketball, it might not be in football, but hopefully you can be a pro in something one day.
Yeah, and that's what people want. And again, that's why I'm excited to talk with you, because you know what it is to be at the pro level. And while we're talking college football, you know we have to talk the Oregon Ducks. Akili, I know they have an upcoming game against Washington State. What are you most looking forward to in that football game?
Well, Washington State has always given us fits. Thank God Mike Leach is in the SEC. Thank God the Cougars got a true freshman at quarterback. but the game is in Pullman. It's going to be tough. There may be some weather issues because it's always cold around this time. And I'm hoping we can just get out of there with a 10-point victory today.
I like that. It's all eyes are on tonight. Super excited for that match. And I hope you guys win too. And then just going to your career. Going to your career at Oregon. I mean, we all remember that senior season, 32 touchdown passes and 11 college starts. I mean, when you look back at your career at Oregon, Akili, what do you want people to kind of remember most or take from just your prolific career there?
Well, it was just an absolute blessing because I believe that I've taken one of the hardest routes to get to the NFL, like in the history of just the position. For me, it was minor league baseball. Then I had to come back to Grossmont College, and I went to the University of Oregon. I ended up making it. And for some people, junior college is the final stop. And guys like myself and Cam Newton and Tony Banks, we were able to weather the storm and make it to the NFL. And with that, I say to those guys, just, keep fighting. Make sure every day you're waking up and being a leader, taking care of business, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, your soul, so that when it's time to go out there and prepare, you can see the game clearly and execute out there on the football field.
Yes, and that's what it's about. And I want to keep on this quarterback conversation with you. Of course, you were selected third overall in the first round of the 1999 NFL Draft after Tim Couch and Donovan McNabb. I mean, when you look at the quarterbacks today, there's a lot of conversation, Akili, about quarterbacks, especially African-American Black quarterbacks in the NFL. Right. Especially this season, we're talking a lot about Kyler Murray, right? And last season was Lamar Jackson. We're also talking about Patrick Mahomes. And so just from your experience playing the quarterback position as a Black man, what was that experience like for you in the National Football League?
It was a blessing, when you know that we're dealing with some organizations and some coaches that don't even want us at the position. For us to have this amount of success in the league is an absolute blessing. And now we have people that are starting to accept it. Right. That's the key. Before they couldn't accept it, but now they're starting to accept it. We have a lot of starters in the league, but there's still some other stuff going on that we got to get fixed, like ownership, like head coaches, like general managers. And then here's another thing that people don't realize. There's not a lot of African-American backup quarterbacks in the NFL as well. That's got to change too. Because for us, a lot of times, either you're a starter or you're out of the league. So when that starts to happen, we can really start to see change in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm so happy you touched on that point because, here in the DMV area, one of the teams that I've had the privilege of covering during my career is the Baltimore Ravens. And you look at it, they're a unique situation where they have Lamar Jackson as a starter, and then their backup is RG3.
RG3.
Right? Two Black quarterbacks in the same organization. Right? You don't always see that, right? That's kind of a rarity to have. And I'm also happy you touched on the GM situation part, talking about Baltimore too. Ozzie Newsome was there for such a long time. Well-respected GM for the organization. You look at a guy like Eric Bieniemy, many are saying, with the Chiefs, you're like, well, when is he going to get that head starting job? Because obviously he's a proven leader. We saw what the Chiefs have. So, how do you think, we know the Rooney Rule exists, right? We all know the Rooney Rule exists. But, how do we kind of create those pipelines, Akili? Because we're just now seeing people, I think, kind of start to really accept African-American quarterbacks in that position for what they are. Because we saw the road that Lamar Jackson had to travel, right? And kind of the road bumps that he had to prove. But how do we kind of just get people to get with the program, I guess, is what I'm asking you, Akili. What do you wish?
Well, a while back, I started something called Abolish the Rooney Rule. Okay. And I want to rephrase that now because we don't need to abolish it. We need to rewrite it. All right. We don't want to just be token interviews because they'll just bring in a Hugh Jackson and just say, oh, we interviewed Hugh. He may have walked around, sat down for an hour and he was gone. No, we need that Rooney Rule to be rewritten, and they must hire X amount of coaches at these certain positions every single year. We got to start talking about possibly Jay-Z and whoever having some ownership in the NFL. We got to start to progressively move towards that as opposed to just the Rooney Rule, because if not, we'll be stuck with just guys getting interviewed, and then next thing you know, they're hiring their nephew, they're hiring their cousin, they're hiring their brother-in-law, and I can just give names after names of that stuff that's been happening, and we'll be stuck in this situation.
Right, which is not what we want. Again, it's all about diversity, especially when you have a league that is majority African-American, right? The football players.
There you go.
On the other side of it. And then we can go even to the lower ranks in college football. We look at the amount of Black head coaches, especially at that D1 level, right? I think it's a problem kind of across the board that we're trying to address. And I think the scrutiny is also different, if we're being honest, right? And having an honest conversation when it comes to Black head coaches, right? You can't always mess up. Or the other side of the argument is that when they get these head coaching jobs, Akili, that they're going to these worst teams that are kind of just really hard to turn around, right? The football fans, Akili, think you can turn around, a 0-16 team in a season, but we both know it's not that easy, right? Because you need different parts to kind of make that program work. And so I'm so happy that you touched on that. You're right. Stuff does, need to happen, need to change. And then when we go back to the conversation on the black quarterbacks, you look at someone like a Cam Newton, right, who for a while wasn't without a team. And of course, now we see where he is. But how do you think America kind of needs to look at the quarterback position as it's changing and as we are seeing that quarterback position kind of get more diverse?
Yeah, don't look at the skin tone. Just look at the individual that's out there leading that team, and is he getting the job done? That's what it boils down to. Can he play? Is he moving the chains? Are we winning games? Once we can get past that, I think the position will really start to change. But again, until then, we're going to continue to have these social issues that we're dealing with in the NFL, in college. And let me just touch on something real quick, because you got coaches like Nick Saban, some of these coaches making $9 million, $8 million. I mean, even in the NCAA, we got to start talking about paying some of these players. Even if Nick went from making $9 million to $8 million, and then we divvy up that other million throughout the SEC for some of the players, because of the amount of money that they're generating through the TV revenue, then we can really start to see some change taking place. But until then, I mean, if I'm making $9 million, I don't know if I would say I want a pay cut to give to some other people out there, because that's what they're doing. So until we're able to get that changed, we'll be able to progressively start to see some things happen in the game of football.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a big topic of conversation now, is compensating the players, because we know what they give on the football field and the amount of money that they're bringing to these university programs. All right, the coaches are getting
staggering.
But can we share the wealth, Akili? I mean, the money's there.
It's staggering. And every time I look at the NCAA and I do my research, they clear $1 billion. You can Google it right now. How much did the NCAA make last year? It was $1 billion. We're talking about a organization that plays basketball games inside of a football stadium. So now the youngsters got to walk up some stairs to play on a elevated basketball court. The trajectory is wrong, so we don't have as many points in the Final Four. We got 100,000 fans sitting there because they're all trying to generate money. And it's sad, but we end up getting a backpack, a jogging suit, maybe an iPhone that was donated to a nonprofit, which is still tax deductible. So I can go on and on with this stuff, but we definitely need some change.
I completely agree with you, and hopefully change will come, because we all know the NCAA. It's been like that for a while, but you know what? Change needs to come. Again, we see all the money that these programs are bringing in, and there's no way I think that you cannot share the wealth. And staying on our conversation of quarterbacks, we might as well first talk about a guy that's playing for the Cincinnati Bengals that everyone was hype on, Akili, who is none other than Joe Burrow. What have you thought about his NFL star coming out of Ellis?
He single-handedly had one of the best years in the history of quarterbacking at the position. I mean, what he was able to do with LSU, all of the numbers and statistics that he were able to break was just phenomenal. You know, he went to an organization that's still trying to figure things out. And to be honest with you, I'm giving him a chance against Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh is undefeated, but that game is always tricky. I played in that division. It's always tricky. So we'll see if Joe and those guys can upset the Steelers this weekend.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that too, because we know the Steelers, I mean, their last game, you look at that game against the Ravens, they were just short, right, of almost getting that game taken from them. And like you said, the AFC North, I mean, it's good football, right? It's usually never like, you have those real gritty games that can happen. And Joe Burrow, we all know he's talented. Like you said, the organization is still trying to build, so I'm not saying the Bengals will pull us out of our minds, but I think they see a lot of potential out of him. And going to a guy that you know, because he's out of Oregon, Justin Herbert with that Los Angeles Chargers. Look, you might as well just go ahead and brag on him, Akili. Go ahead.
Yes. Hey, one thing I'll say is we found our quarterback for the next 10 years. And I'm just so excited about what Herbert is able to do in the NFL, because we took a hit as far as the Oregon quarterbacks in the NFL not having the success that we wanted from college to the NFL. And people sit back and say, oh, Herbert, he's just another Oregon quarterback. He's not going to be. Boy, were they wrong. He is a baller. There's been times when he was on the field with Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, and he looked like the best quarterback on the field. Nobody can deny that. So with that and us having to get healthy out here on the West Coast, I see a Super Bowl coming with Justin Herbert. It's just a matter of us getting some more free agents in and making sure we're healthy.
I like that. Like you said, Justin Herbert, I think he took a lot of people by surprise and by storm. You already knew he was talented.
Oh, yeah, I already know.
Yeah. Questions about that next level, but we're seeing it. And they've honestly just been a fun team to watch. He's the only quarterback in NFL history to go for 1,500 passing yards and 15 plus touchdowns in their first 6 career games, people. Like, that's a crazy stat. And I also know you gave a shout out to Coach Pep Hamilton for his development of Justin Herbert. Paying off. We know him pretty well here in DC, but what have you like just about how he's helped Justin Herbert kind of get to that developmental phase of, just becoming this great NFL quarterback?
Yeah, I've watched Pep do some stuff pregame, just the pocket movement and him going through his progressions. And then I go back to his time with Andrew Luck, and developing Andrew Luck in college and with Indy. And then he had an opportunity to go to the XFL. And now he's got an opportunity to work with Herbert. I just hope that we can keep Pep because at this pace, with what he's doing with Justin, somebody is going to go get Pep. They're going to bring in a quarterback and see if Pep can do the same thing somewhere else. So with that being said, I hope we can pay Pep financially so he can live comfortably in Los Angeles and we can keep him and try to go on a run here over the next 4 or 5 years.
I like that. I like that you made sure to say live comfortably in Los Angeles because we know
live comfortably in Los Angeles.
So you got to take those extra commas and extra zeros to that paycheck. And since you touched on other Oregon quarterbacks, I know one guy that was so promising was Marcus Mariota, right? Who some consider the greatest Oregon football player, really, of all time. And we know, winning Oregon his first Heisman Trophy. You look at the records that he held for Oregon, and then we kind of looked at his career, right, in the NFL. You see Tennessee, the Las Vegas Raiders, but we know that injury bug, has been something that's kind of plagued career. But I like that you touched on what do you think is coming from Marcus Mariota. I mean, I think we've seen glimpses, right? And obviously we know he's a talented player, but again, I think you're one that can speak to this, just the adversity that quarterbacks have to go through to kind of get back to that level of play. Do you still think there's hope?
There's definitely hope, and I love what John Gruden is doing with Herbert right now. He brought Herbert in to take that job away from Carr. Carr won the job. Herbert is still trying to get healthy. Gruden didn't cut Herbert. He kept Herbert, put him on IR, probably sat him down and said, look, I want you to get healthy, learn the system. Let's see how Carr plays. Next year, this team could be yours. His story is not done. It just didn't work out in Tennessee. Marcus is a heck of a player. And once he gets into the right system, look out. The sky's the limit for that kid.
I like that. Look out. The sky is the limit for that kid. It's just so exciting to see. And I want to stay on football. Of course, you're the best person to talk football with. But outside of playing for the National Football League, you also had a chance to play with the Canadian Football League. Describe for our listening audience what that experience was like for Akili.
Well, the biggest thing is I should have went over there earlier. But, my pride kept me at home working out, just waiting on the phone call. No. My advice to any free agent right now that's trying to get back into the league is go to the CFL. They're starting to give out more money there. I know Jeremiah Masoli and Vernon Adams, they were upwards of about $300,000 for about 3-4 months of football. They didn't have no requirements for the offseason. So my advice to anybody, if you're not in the NFL, I would definitely say go to the CFL. We know that The Rock is getting ready to fire up the XFL. We got some stuff coming with the Arena League. You have to make sure you're playing in pads to make sure you keep your body in shape.
Right. Because like you said, the shape is very important, like you're saying, right? Because you want to especially get at that top level. And I'm glad that you said that because it sounds like you're saying the CFL is a viable option for players that are trying to make their way to the National Football League. Because it's hard to get in the NFL, right? The numbers are only so big. You look at those roster stats, and then you look at the injury that are happening too in the National Football League. So I'm glad that you gave that advice to players. And let me just ask you, during your career there, what did you learn most about yourself as a player in the CFL as compared to playing in the NFL?
Well, I started some games and I didn't start some games. You got to be a team player. I tell my quarterbacks all the time, you never wish anything bad or negative on a person that's in front of you, because if you're taking control of your business, when you look yourself in the mirror, it doesn't matter what the next person does. Because when you get the opportunity, you got to make sure you go 10 for 10. And if he goes 9 for 10, then hopefully the coaches see something in you to give you that opportunity. But you just don't want that energy where you're waking up every day and you're looking at the person you're competing with and you're saying, oh, he sucks. I hope he doesn't do well today so that I can play. No, because guess what? That same energy that you're giving out, somebody's going to be thinking the same way about you. So be supportive of whoever's in that game, because at the end of the day, if we would have won that Grey Cup or you would have won that Super Bowl, if you were a starter or a backup, we all would have been celebrating, getting some nice fancy rings.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Exactly right. You all want to be in on the celebration, and it really is every player that makes that team win, right? There's no I in team.
Right.
And talking about that, I don't think enough people know, Akili, honestly, what the exact role is of a backup quarterback. How would you describe it?
Well, obviously, you got to always prepare. Okay, you got to prepare like you're getting ready to play. That's the biggest thing. And then you just got to be a support system. I tell guys all the time, when I was in Cincinnati and I was backing up, I was a quarterback coach, because as soon as Kitna or Scott Mitchell, whoever came off the field, they would go see Ken Anderson real quick. And then they were coming to talk to me about the coverages, the leverage of the corners, where's the outside linebacker. You got to always be trying to win, be affiliated with winners, always trying to push off positive energy. And again, that energy is going to come back to you in some shape or form.
Yeah. And I think what you're touching on, it really hits home for us here in Washington with our Washington football team, of course, with our quarterback situation, Akili. You saw what happened with Kyle Allen. Then Alex Smith thrust back into the spotlight, which what a story, right, that Alex Smith has to even be playing football on that football field. There was a lot of questions about Dwayne Haskins, who is now back on the active side of the roster, right? So finding that quarterback position, but they've all now been backup quarterbacks, but they've also all known what it is to start. And like you said, it's kind of always being ready for that moment, but also helping that guy on the field. And like what you said, there's no hate there, right? You're rooting for that guy. You're constantly rooting for that guy. I might as well ask you, on the Alex Smith situation here in Washington, what did you think about his amazing, inspiring comeback story to the football field?
Yeah, just a complete miracle, because Alex Smith is from San Diego. He went to Helix High School with Reggie Bush, 10 minutes from where I grew up at. And to see him overcome that and have an opportunity to start was just unbelievable. I hope that Haskins resurfaces again to get another opportunity. He's only in year 2. Be patient with the young man, develop the young man, and give him an opportunity. You don't find a lot of quarterbacks that throw for 45, 50 touchdowns in college. There is some upside there, but he has to keep developing, and most of all, developing mentally. And once he develops mentally, his physical talent will start to take over, and he'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I like that you said that, because I think Dwayne Haskins got a lot of scrutiny, and I think a good portion of it was unfair. He is a young quarterback, and like you said, what he did at Ohio State, I think none of us were. Just an amazing, amazing career. But it sounds good. It sounds like you're saying there's still hope for Dwayne Haskins to be a great quarterback.
There's hope. Yeah, there's hope. Don't give up on that kid, please. And the biggest thing that I said to him in a couple quarterback groups that I'm in on Instagram, keep your nose clean. Don't start talking bad throughout the organization. Don't go public and start talking about quarterback coaches and all that type of stuff. Go visit a local YMCA in DC and try to make sure you're making amends with the fans. There's some other things that you can do while you're out there to keep that energy going so that you can resurface somewhere else.
Yeah. I like that you touched on that. And just, if you can you shed light on just who are some of the young quarterbacks, Akili, for you that have just been fun to watch and you kind of think are the most inspiring and will go on to have great NFL careers?
Well, the first one is Kyler Murray, like you touched on. Just phenomenal what he can do with his arms, his legs, and his height. I'm looking like his linemen are 6'6" and 6'7". How is this youngster seeing over the lineman? Yeah, so he's probably back there looking through the lineman, and he's just looking at different color helmets. Okay, that's my helmet. That's not my helmet. I need to throw it right there to that helmet. And then next thing you know, he takes off, and nobody can catch him. But Kyler's phenomenal. Joe is phenomenal. Herbert is phenomenal. The league is in good hands. When all these older quarterbacks start to retire, Big Ben, Tom Brady, we got some youngsters on the way that's going to keep this thing going, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
I love that. And just, I have to ask you this. MVP race, who do you have winning right now?
Russell Wilson. Although he lost the last 2 games, he's made some mistakes. But for them to be 6-2 right now with 8 more games to play, I'm looking at least a 12-4 or a 13-3. He's playing phenomenal right now. And I hope that he responds this weekend.
Yes, we're all rooting for Russell Wilson. Like you said, just a prolific player. Yes, he's had a couple struggles, but I'm like you. I definitely have him leading my ballot for MVP. And I know I want to get you back to your son's football game. I don't want him mad with you, but I do want to talk your post-football.
Yeah, I got to get going.
If you could just really quickly touch on your post-football career, because I think it's so important. Football does end, right? I mean, as much as guys want to play it forever, we all can't be Tom Brady or Ben Roethlisberger. What was that career transition like for you? How did you find your true happiness in calling after football?
Well, in the beginning, it was tough because you still want to play, but your body is saying, Keely, it's over. So we do a couple of things. We get around guys who are still playing. We want to coach X's and O's because we're still chasing championships. We're still competing. But more importantly for me, I'm teaching guys not to make the mistakes that I made. And some guys listen and some guys don't. But that's my calling. I'm the guy that can show you how to get to the NFL, get to the stage in New York. And I can show you the guy that's going to get you out of the NFL if you make some of the bonehead decisions that I made. And again, some guys are listening, some aren't. And I just love what I'm doing right now. I truly do.
I love that. Akili Smith, thank you so much here for joining me. I know we had some difficulty getting on, but we made it through this show. Best wishes to your son. We're all rooting for him. Thank you so much for joining. Any last words for the listeners?
No last words. Thank you for having me. You're doing a great job. You're well-versed. You've been studying. Keep it up. Hopefully we'll see you on ESPN on the sideline one day. You're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Have a great one.
Okay, you too.
All right, you guys just heard from former Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, former Oregon Ducks quarterback, none other than Akili Smith. I appreciate you all so much for joining me here on Listen In With KNN, presented by Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. We'll be back next week on Wednesday with another former football player, and Sherman Williams. You won't want to miss it. That's 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Don't be late. Be right here. Listen In With KNN. I'll see you guys then. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy college football, and enjoy the NFL tomorrow. Have a great one. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Follow Kelsey on social media at @TheRealKNelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM Fox Sports Radio, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.
You used to hear me on your airwaves or hear me on my hit podcast, but now I'm taking you to the screen. You'll love Elevator Thoughts. We will talk the latest trending in sports. It's game time. What better way to get to know those that visit the show than over some good food and drink? It's time for confessions.